All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us for Let's Have a Moment of Science, Extrapolate, Experiment, and Explore. My name is Teresa Gage. I am happy to serve you as the Assistant Director of Engagement Programming here in the Office of Alumni and Alumni Relations. This program tonight is in part by all of our science departments, the Office of Advancement, and the Alumni and Alumni Relations Office. So I help to organize regional events, so be on the lookout for an HWS event in your area. Before we get started, just a few things for some housekeeping tips. Please keep your microphones muted. That will limit our background noise. And we know we're going to have a lot of questions tonight. So we're going to try to answer all of your questions that have come through registration. We do have some time built in for a question and answer. And like I said, I know there'll be more coming in, so please feel free to use the chat feature. We'll be monitoring that throughout the program. And also at the end of the event, we will share out an email with our faculty emails, about the program, and we'll include that in our follow-up so we can, get through to any questions that you might have. We are also recording the meeting this evening. It'll take a few days, but we'll send that video once it's ready in that follow-up email, and it will also be posted to our HWS YouTube channel. All right, so it is my pleasure to introduce our Provost and Dean of Faculty, Sarah Kirk. Sarah is responsible for the planning, development, and delivery of the college's educational programs and services here at HWS. Sarah works with our faculty on curricular management and operations, supports our faculty initiatives and development, and supervises the academic support offices and centers of the colleges. Sarah started the colleges in June 2021, and we are very happy to have her. And I'd like to introduce Associate Provost for Faculty Affairs and Development, my friend, Professor Nick Metz. Nick oversees new faculty orientation, faculty development, and supports department and program chairs. He serves as the primary contact for faculty members regarding developmental and procedural matters, and works with various institutional offices to assist with grantsmanship and other faculty support services. Nick is a tenured member and associate professor of our Geoscience department and has been with the colleges since 2011. Thank you, and take it away.
All right, thanks, Teresa. For the first part here, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah, who's going to give you a general overview of sciences here at HWS and the latest on a number of various items.
Thank you, Nick. Yeah, and I think even to start, I just want to thank all of you for being here tonight. This is really truly exceptional experience, and we are so happy to host so many familiar faces and new faces as well. I'd like to especially thank our honorary trustee, Catherine Elliott, who I see is here, former trustee Art Medici, and current trustees Richard Solomon and Ed Cooper for your ongoing support of the work that we have been doing. So Nick, if you want to go ahead and move us ahead. So I think it's really important to start with our strengths. There are so many wonderful things happening on campus these days. And one of the things I'd like to particularly highlight is the strong integrated curriculum. And that is curriculum that's integrated across the sciences, but also integrated across the liberal arts. We've got fantastic faculty and fantastic students really working to move us forward so that we have a dynamic curriculum, not one that's stagnant. Also would bring to your attention our really truly robust summer research opportunities for students, and I'll share a little bit more of that as we go, and our research active faculty and numerous external grants. So just to highlight that, we've got some photos here so you can see the wealth of experiences that are happening both in the classroom and in the field, and even globally. So we think of just the work that we're doing both local and global and the strength of what's happening in the classroom. You can see a number of research there, both that our students are presenting research, they're working collaboratively with faculty, and even shooting rockets off at NASA. And again, this is an experience. Being in the Finger Lakes is phenomenal because the wonderful work happens both within our science buildings, but also outside in the Finger Lakes, Cooper's Woods, Hanley Preserve, and William Scandling. So this is an opportunity to have students really be scientists, not just learn about science. And I lastly highlight our just nationally recognized programming. We have our Environmental Studies Summer Youth Institute, which brings high school students from all over to learn in our environment here with our faculty. We have a nationally recognized RAU, or Research Experience for Undergrads, which Nick will talk a little bit more about. And we're really known as experts in the area in terms of water quality testing at the Finger Lakes Institute. So as we think about summer research, we think about an opportunity for students and faculty to work side by side on really cutting edge research. Students receive a stipend for doing so, and free housing. Faculty also receive a stipend. But I think I really just want to highlight here that we had 132 students apply for the summer research opportunities, and we were able to offer 80 students working under 37 different faculty members. And this happens again in the sciences and now across the curriculum. What makes that possible is really generous donations from donors. Some are on this call. I'll call out Ed Tapper and Tom Patchett, Arnie Cohen, and Don Woodrow have been significant contributors to our program, but also our faculty's success in achieving grants from the National Science Foundation. You'll see here that as you look at grant funding per $1 million of endowment, HWS really stands out as leaders in this area. However, we have an opportunity. Our net percentage of STEM majors is lower than our peers, despite the fact that we've done such an amazing job with securing funding and offering opportunities for students. And if you ask why, we would respond, we really think it's our facilities that are tired. They have been they're still well used, but they don't show as well on our campus as they might at other institutions. But that's going to change. So we've really started to work on designs for a new science building. We are at the point right now of consulting, finding architectural firms to consult with on that. As well, we're looking at fundraising for additional cutting edge equipment. Our students work directly with instrumentation and equipment. They're not watching glassware. They're really engaged in the research. The other thing we're doing is thinking really innovatively about our curriculum and the ways which we can take advantage of the close conversations that happen across campus. We have faculty that teach both in the sciences. We've got our bidisciplinary courses. So we'll have a biologist and a sociologist talking about reproductive health. We have a chemist and studio artists talking about art restoration. So we've got lots of opportunities for collaboration that comes across very clearly with our new data analytics minor, which is drawing faculty across the curriculum together to help students to engage with data. So our challenge is a tired facility and equipment, but we would say that we have elegant grit. We got that word from a parent who is visiting campus. So I often say we're scrappy, but I think we have an amazing opportunity here to really think differently. We're very grateful. Betty Good is on the call, who gave us our first gift towards the new science building. We've also received significant gifts from Kevin Stein and Arnie Cohen, who I think is with us today as well. So we are grateful for all the support that we receive from our friends and donors and alums. And I am truly grateful to get to show you tonight our amazing faculty and amazing students who make HWS such a wonderful place to work. So with that, so you don't have to hear more from me, I'm going to turn it over to Patricia Mowery, Professor of Biology, and Erin Pelkey, and have them introduce their students to you.
So Erin Pelkey and my student is Taylor Coburn. Taylor.
And I'm Patricia Mowery, and my student, I can't see her, there she is. Bree, you want to wave?
So we are I think this is just great. We get like 5 minutes to talk to this wide range of people about science. And we don't, I mean, this is a very infrequent opportunity. So we're basically just going to give you a little snippet, like a 5-minute snippet, and hopefully it'll whet your appetite to maybe ask more questions and really understand what we're doing here is real. So this is a collaborative anti-cancer drug development at HWS. So the problem is doesn't really need to be sold, cancer. So this is something that brings students in. It's something that we can go to funding agencies like the NIH as our sort of big fundamental problem. And so Patricia and I, about 9 years ago, got together to attack cancer from both the biology and chemistry perspective. So in the Pelkey group, we make small molecules. You can see in the upper left corner or upper right corner, and we've developed syntheses, and we've been doing this for years and years and years. But now we can see if these compounds actually do something.
Okay, and so this actually started this collaboration because there was a student in Erin's lab who had been doing synthesis on a compound, and I went to her poster and I'd had her in class and I was chatting with her, and she's like, can we see if these do anything? And so we started this project, and what you can see on here is a 96-well plate. This was probably one of Bree's plates. And then there are cancer cells across this. And then going down is different concentrations of one of the Pelkey compounds. And then you add a dye. And if the cells are alive, they will turn the dye purple. And if the cells are dead, they don't turn it, it stays yellow. And then we can take this plate and put it into a plate reader. And from that, we can get a value as to how well this compound actually kills it at what concentration. Now, when we do this kind of research, our students are incredibly involved in this. We want their input, we want their ideas. We have group meetings all the time talking about this stuff. And it was actually Bree who ran into a publication that says, hey, for free, the National Cancer Institute will test your compounds if they're good, and they will screen them against these 60 cell lines. And from that profile, you can start to figure out who else has found something with a similar killing profile, if you will. And from that, you can extrapolate what you might be targeting, because even though we're killing cancer cells, we have no idea what we're hitting. And because of that, we were able to say, hey, there's a good chance we're hitting this protein called tubulin. And tubulin is critical for cell shape, migration, for signaling, for cell growth. And so it's a target that is used in a lot of cancer agents. And it grows and it shrinks. That's what's being shown in this cartoon of the proteins coming together and shrinking down. And so we tested against tubulin, and it turned out that it inhibited growing and therefore killed the cancer cells. All right, so that was exciting. All right, we are targeting tubulin and we know we're doing it, but how do we know how to improve these compounds? And at this point, what's being shown here, this biological target tubulin, that cartoon, there's these little color molecules on it. Those are known sites where molecules can hit that disrupt tubulin. And so we connected with Catherine Cole over at Christopher Newport University, who does molecular modeling. And so what she's been doing is modeling our compounds within the tubulin binding site. And from that, we're able to say, okay, if we tweaked it on this portion of the molecule, then maybe it'd be better, or would this make it worse? Or how could we improve this? And using that, I'm gonna add the next arrow, Erin. Then Erin takes that data and they figure out exciting new syntheses, so asking synthetic questions, which then lead to new rounds of testing for biological activity, and around and around and around to be able to get and improve our molecules.
So what's really awesome, here's a picture of us in action. And one of the cool slides is the Zoom meeting slide. And so when the pandemic hit, we went remote in 2020. And so we had this group meeting. We started having group meetings via Zoom. And then when we brought our collaborator in from Christopher Newport, we just kept doing the Zoom meetings, but now we're like in 2 different states. And so we have like weekly group meetings. We talk about our results, and the students really can see what's happening in real time in the modeling and the biology and the chemistry, and can comment on it. And students have actually crossed over from biology to chemistry and also from chemistry to modeling. So just a little bit about results are just real quick. Our first compound is shown here that we made a few years ago, and it was modestly active. We made some sort of guess and check changes, and we came up with these 2 other sort of what we call generation 2 and 3 compounds where the activity was improved. This was before the modeling. We now suspect that with modeling, we will greatly be able to improve these values. Lower values means better compounds. The first 2 generations of compounds have already led to publications with a whole range of students, some of which are highlighted here. And we just submitted a manuscript actually earlier this month for our 3rd generation. And we're essentially working on the 4th and 5th generations. And here we see Bree and Taylor, who are on this call. The outcomes, we've had 28 students involved in this research in the last 9 years. And what's truly remarkable about this group, 15 have already been published, 12 more student co-authors on that 3rd manuscript. So nearly all 28 are going to end up being published. As of now, 8 have enrolled in PhD programs, 9 in MD PA programs, 2 PharmDs, 1 GED. We have 1 lawyer, and 6 others are employed in the science field. What's really made this possible is funding from major grant agencies as well. Oh, my thing disappeared, sorry. As well as what I'll call HWS alum benefactors. They've really helped kept the research going during the summer and also with supplies. This includes Dr. Ed Tapper, Drs. Carrie Ann Cohen, Dr. Ed Franks, and the Patricia family and the Romana Fund. Okay, so escape. That is the end of my presentation. And so me and Patricia are just going to prompt Bree and Taylor to say a little bit. I think we'll start with Bree.
So, I'm trying to get my thing here. Yeah, Bree. So, how did doing research help with your decision on going into getting a PhD?
Well, as you know, I was pre-med before I joined your research group. So I was taking classes with Patricia, and I ended up being advised by her for my major, and just kind of asked, can I get involved in research? She had also hooked me up with a summer research program over at Cornell. So I'd done a little bit of research, but wanted to move more into health research. After doing that, a little bit of a life crisis, trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do, which Patricia was actually great for and really mentored me through that and said, you know, you have the mind for research. Have you ever considered this? And at the time, I really hadn't, but I really liked the research that we were doing. And I felt like the problems that I had with going to med school were going to be not being able to help people and not being able to like answer their question if it was, you know, something that we couldn't diagnose. And so I liked being on the other side of it, where I was actually working on answering those questions that we have left remaining. So it completely inspired me to apply to PhD programs.
So my question for Taylor, I know I sent you a question, I'm changing it slightly. You just went through the PhD application process. How do you feel like research prepared you for that process, going out on interviews and meeting with faculty?
It definitely gave me something to talk about, that's for sure. But one thing that I noticed is when I was in these interviews, like the faculty were impressed with like how much hands-on experience I had and like how much I was actually like proposing my own research questions and solving them. And that's just not something that like I think they saw every day. So they were definitely shocked by that. and it's also like something that I'm just really excited about. So it also just, it let me show off like my enthusiasm, which I thought was really helpful.
I think we're turning it over to Nick. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you both. I hope you are as impressed as I am by our amazing faculty and students. And it's now our opportunity to hear from Nick, who'll tell you a little bit more about the REU.
We can't hear you.
Helps if I unmute my microphone. What I was saying is thank you, Sarah, thank you, Erin, thank you, Patricia. And 12 years ago when I came here at HWS, the reason why I decided to take a position here was because of the amazing summer research program. And you're able to work with students as early as after their first year here. This summer we're going to have 30% of the students involved in the summer research program, after only 1 year here on campus. And I've been fortunate, along with Professor Neil Laird, to be able to maybe take it one step further by, having a National Science Foundation funded REU, or research experience for undergraduates, here on campus for the past 6 years. And I'm just going to show you one example of the types of research that we do. I'm a meteorologist, and we've spent a good portion of that time looking at these features in the atmosphere called atmospheric rivers. And you'll notice here right along the East Coast, this filament of moisture. And that plays all sorts of havoc and flooding and landslides and ending droughts. And this REU is sort of a holistic program for students, much like our summer research program in general, where students get opportunities in the field. We take them up to Mount Washington in New Hampshire. They get panel discussions from former students, and they get the opportunity themselves to present their research in really informal ways amongst all of their peers. And this atmospheric river topic is one that I really like to work with students because it's very approachable. And if you've watched the news at all in the past, couple of weeks to months, you've heard about them, right? About floods in California and Pakistan, clouds carrying as much water as the Mississippi. California snowpack reaches all-time high. There was a story about a lake that reappeared after 10 years and now is causing all sorts of havoc even before the snow has melted. And there you see the story about that new California lake. So there's been all sorts of research on these atmospheric rivers out west. You can see an example here from 2017, where all the water caused a massive release from the Lake Orville, which effectively reshaped the rock here, right, with this incredible amount of water that was released. And they're simple. These features are extremely straightforward. These images are just showing water vapor from satellite images in space. And I've zoomed in on this region right here. And you can see these filaments. These filaments occur all across the globe. And these filaments really are just that increased moisture you get, that warm, moist air in the summertime ahead of these large, low pressure systems you might see on the radar. And out west, they're responsible for the vast majority of the precipitation that the West Coast gets. But there had never been a study examining these in the Northeast. So I said, this is something our students can do. But it was a pretty large undertaking, right? Typically, large-scale studies like this in atmospheric science span 30 years. So we sort of took a multi-pronged, sort of multi-level of mentoring approach, where in the summer of 2018, I worked with 2 students. And we developed a 10-year sort of proof of concept. Can we study these in the Northeast? They had to look at 4 times daily maps for 365 days for 10 years. That's tens of thousands of maps they looked through. My eyesight now I need reading glasses because of that, right? And then the next year, I took 2 students, and my other mentor colleague, Jay, took 2 students, and they expanded this climatology to 30 years. So there have now been 6 students that have spent time working on this project. But like anything else in science, right, we need consistency. I need to make sure that everyone was looking at these maps and applying our criteria in a straightforward way. So my first 2 students, what I did is I hired them back the next summer to act as near peer mentors so that I had an additional set of eyes working with these other students. So this is really, really student-driven research. And this first student here, Anna Kaminsky, as an undergraduate student, took the reins and, worked incredible hours to get this work published, and I'll talk more about that in a second. So this is really 6 students, and as Sarah said, doing more than just washing glassware, right? They were the ones developing the research questions. They were the ones in the trenches, doing the work. And they found amazing results. They found that these atmospheric rivers are actually more frequent in the Northeast. And we're trying to figure out why we don't see quite the same impacts. And that's sort of still in, that's a research project that students are going to work on this summer. But these features occur almost 1/3 of all days in some parts of the Northeast, particularly along the coast. So I'm incredibly proud of these students who, worked to produce the first manuscript, on this topic in the Northeast. And you can see it's led by Anna. So all these students and my collaborators, but it really was student driven. Much like Patricia, before I get there, I just wanted to sort of show you what I call Team Atmospheric River. And I wanted to give a shout out to all of them where they are today. So Anna Kaminsky is now a PhD student at Florida State University. Katie Bockley at Penn State University. Megan Duncan just finished her master's at Oregon State and now works for the National Park Service. Ivy Glade works as a PhD student at Colorado State University. Michaela works for the National Weather Service in NOAA, and Cassie works for the EPA. And much like, Patricia and Erin, right, since I've been here, I had a number of students involved, and those students have been on 14 refereed publications. Time and time again, they're impressive. And over 200 conference presentations, local, regional, national, numerous masters and PhDs. I didn't break it down like Patricia and Erin did, but just consistently amazing students, starting as early as just after their first year here on campus. And much like they did, I also like to, acknowledge the incredible funding and support that we've had from external granting agencies like the NSF and NOAA, but also from, OFA, the Office of Faculty Affairs and Development, which now I'm privileged to be a part of, coming from, many incredible endowed funds from Dr. Tapper, Dick Steinschneider, Bill Arnsbrock, Don Woodrow, and the Romana Fund as well. So that's enough from me, and I'm going to now take this opportunity to introduce 2 students who worked with me. And first, that's going to be Jeremiah Piersante. And Jeremiah, as you're answering and talking a little bit about yourself, I'm wondering if you might think about how HWS's liberal arts education might have impacted your trajectory and how your preparation is compared to other graduate students you're currently working with at the University of Albany.
Sure. Thanks, Nick. So yeah, my name is Jeremiah Piersante, Hobart class of 2018. I'm currently a PhD candidate at UAlbany, where I study hurricanes. So just as a first preliminary comment, I just want to say that if you're a STEM major thinking about graduate school after college, you're going to want at least one summer research internship in order to be the best applicant. And what HWS provides is top of the line, competitive with other large scientific universities that have more resources. So I just wanted to put that out there. And all that said, the bottom line is that this experience that I did back in 2016 now really kickstarted my trajectory towards graduate school. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, when I was only in my sophomore year, but after taking a class or two with Professor Nick Metz, he approached me about taking this summer research opportunity. And, one thing led to another. You're able to learn about what life in grad school is like. You're able to collaborate with faculty members, pick their brains a little bit about what kind of opportunities there are. And yeah, one thing led to another. I was able to get into a master's program at Colorado State University, and that led me to where I am at UAlbany. And kind of in terms of how did a liberal arts education prepare me for this? Well, I'm actually, back in the day, I was a double major, and in addition to geoscience, I was also a major in Spanish and Hispanic studies. Got to study abroad in Spain, all of that true HWS experience. It was great. But when I was looking for master's programs, one project that I was introduced to was involving studying severe weather in Argentina. If you didn't know, they get some pretty nasty hail, tornadoes, and all that down there. So I was drawn to this project because it was, involving a Spanish-speaking country. Obviously, I had a strong background in Spanish, and one of my first projects that I did was actually looking through numerous reports of people reporting hail, tornadoes, floods, etc., Obviously, I needed to do a little bit of translating myself, but that ended up being one of my research projects that I did for my master's. So kind of having that background in Spanish, having that ability to utilize my second major was huge. And again, it all started from the REU at HWS, which propelled me forward.
Great, thanks, Jeremiah. Gabby Linscott, I was wondering if as you say a few words, maybe you might be able to talk a bit about your relationship with faculty here at HWS during your time and beyond.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Nick. For full transparency, Nick was my advisor. But I had an absolutely wonderful experience with my interactions with all of the faculty at HWS, but especially in the sciences. HWS was definitely the right choice for me. I was liberal arts student. I was interested in a million things all at once. I was placed into Nick's freshman seminar, learning about climate change and politics. And that really piqued my interest, and I kept taking classes, and Nick eventually, going into my second year, convinced me to start applying for research opportunities. I was lucky enough to work with the REU that Nick and Neil run, with the students that work on atmospheric rivers. Before then, I'd never had any research experience, and it was similar to Jeremiah, was what led me to even consider pursuing graduate school. I'm at the University of Maryland now, working with my advisors at NASA Goddard. So I'm very grateful for that first research experience and where it has led me. The faculty are incredibly supportive, but also very challenging. They meet you where you're at, and they see your potential, and they help you find it, pushing you to take external opportunities, even from HWS, supporting you through summers of research. But I think what I gained the most from my one-on-one interactions with faculty was the iterative process of research design. And I think that's really set me apart from my peers in graduate school. I'm in my second year now. I have 3 different research projects that I've been able to complete on my own, from design to publishing or presenting. And I feel very grateful to have had that opportunity. I'm excited for conferences, excited to present instead of nervous and unsure. There's a lot of focus on writing, professional research, and it's a lot of amazing opportunities. I think the small class sizes really enable you to take advantage of the opportunities, rather than a big institution where maybe those opportunities are going to a smaller group of students. But I felt very supported and encouraged, and really felt like my professors and faculty were my cheerleaders, pushing me on towards reaching my full potential.
Great, thanks, Gabby. Before we take some questions, and there are a bunch in the chat, and if you have questions, please enter them in the chat. I also have the ones that people submitted beforehand. I think Sarah wants to say a few words.
Yeah, I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank the wonderful faculty and students who are here, but to also bring out some themes that I heard, and I hope you heard as well. I think it's very clear the relationships that are important here, both in terms of students and faculty, but also students and students, and the way our faculty set students up to be leaders as well along the way, and to mentor other students. I hope you heard just the power of the liberal arts for our students. So it's not just the science education, but it's the holistic education they're getting that helps them be better scientists. And I will say, you maybe didn't see this, but I give the benefit of reading student evaluations of faculty. And one thing that I'm very appreciative at HWS campus is the way students who are not science students find an approachability and an interest in science because of the way that our faculty make science approachable and interesting to them. And then lastly, I think I really want to point out this idea that because of the supportive environment that we provide our students, that means we get to really stretch our students and challenge them to reach great heights. And these 4 students are great examples of students who are meeting their full potential because they were in an environment that helped them step forward. And lastly, I'll just say, I think one thing I hope you picked up is the connection between the classroom and the laboratory. that it's seamless on our campus, that students are getting excited in the classroom, and that's moving them into research, and that faculty are tapping on students' shoulders and saying, I see you, come be a part of this wonderful opportunity. And so again, I am incredibly proud to be a part of this institution and to be able to participate in all that's happening here. So with that, we'll turn it over to you all to ask questions, and Nick will moderate us through that.
Great, thanks, Sarah. So the first question, maybe we'll go to Erin and Patricia. The question says, the sciences evolve at a rapid pace. From your point of view, from the faculty point of view, how does HWS keep pace with these advances to provide students with the scientific research and academic experiences needed to compete in industry?
That's a great question. And it is a challenging issue. And so as faculty, we try to go to conferences to see what's happening, to be presenting with others, reading what's happening, et cetera. And we've had some very wonderful donations that have been able to get more equipment, because research equipment, we need the newest technologies, and then also the funds that have been there to help us to run the assays on those equipment, which again are also cost a lot. So it is a constant challenge, but I think that's the way we've been trying to approach it.
Well, one thing I would add is one way to sort of keep up is to publish. Right.
Yeah.
Every time we have to write a paper, we have to know what the state of the art is, basically say what it is, and then just say, what are we doing to push it? And then grant writing. Like all of us on this call are heavily involved in grant writing. Like we just write all the time. Like me and Patricia have an active NIH submission, and we submit constantly. So in the grantsmanship process and the publication process, you really have to know what's going on in your field.
Yeah, and I'll just add to what they said that, faculty are identifying other opportunities. Professor Leslie Hebb, who's not here tonight, in physics, recently applied for a National Science Foundation grant called EPIC, which aims to build capacity to link to industry. And through that program, we're trying to build a tighter pipeline to the photonics industry of Rochester, and are very likely to be awarded, nearly $500,000 to support that through Leslie's hard work. So they're, keeping up on these latest, greatest grant opportunities are as Erin and Patricia said. A question for the students. Maybe we'll start with Taylor, since you're doing this now, but we can rotate through all four of you briefly. What is done to identify post-baccalaureate career intentions for you? So what sort of support have you received to help you sort of beyond your path here at HWS?
I think that obviously I was applying to grad school in the fall, and I think at first it's just really overwhelming. And what helped me the most was having Professor Pelkey there, supporting me and cheering me on the whole way. Because it's easy to get down on yourself and it's easy to lose that confidence, but just having that support system is what really made it super easy for me.
Maybe Bree, a couple words.
Yeah, I think HWS has a lot of different seminars and sessions that you can attend so that they can expose you to all the different careers. Because I think we typically think when you're doing research, you can either go into industry or academia. And it was through conversations with Patricia and through these kinds of meetings that I was exposed to the fact there's actually a large plethora of things that you can do post-baccalaureate. And then also on the topic of applying for grad schools, it was great. I had a friend who was applying the same time as me who was in the Pelkey lab. So that was really nice. We were able to bounce ideas off of each other, but also one of the biggest things when you're applying for grad school is getting faculty feedback. And I think since, we do have such a small community and I felt so comfortable reaching out to a variety of faculty, I was able to get that feedback from multiple people, which I think was really beneficial as well.
Jeremiah?
Yeah, building a network. If you're going to apply to graduate school, it helps to meet people in person, get to know them firsthand. We were funded through HWS to go to conferences, including the massive American Meteorological Society annual meeting, which has somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 people every year. And that's a great way to interact with people across the discipline, put yourself out there, be able to show off your poster that you made for the research that you did with HWS. And again, like coupling that with the research that you have done and, meeting people face to face goes miles in terms of applying to graduate school.
And Gabby.
Yeah, I'll echo all of that. I have two other things to add. I think through the research opportunities I was afforded, I was able to get in contact with other academic communities and get in touch with networks that way. And also as a student, I was able to create a club called Women in Geoscience, where we would bring in speakers from different fields on like a bi-monthly basis. So from different sectors of government, academia, industry, and get to hear what a day looks like in each of those types of career paths. And I think that was really helpful for my peers and I at the time.
Great, thank you to all of you. Next question, Sarah, I think this one's maybe best taken by you. Maybe you could give an update on, you alluded to it, but update on some progress on the Integrated Science Center.
Yeah, absolutely. So it has been named as one of our key priorities for the upcoming campaign. So I think the first thing to say is we've got full institutional support behind this. We've been meeting with a couple of architects to walk through the space and try and understand how to best utilize our space and what changes to make. And so we're in the process right now of continuing to get some architectural consultation. We've been meeting amongst the faculty to talk about priorities and, how do we think most about the ways forward? What does science look like moving ahead in terms of our integration? So in terms of, there's been conversations about coursework. Are there ways in which we can integrate, much like data analytics? There's a public health conversation as well. We're just introducing a public health minor, which Patricia could say more about, and working towards a major there, but also thinking about, are there ways in which we can do research methods that may be cut across the curriculum? And so in addition to that, we've just, I think, been thinking about our resources. As I said, I think this is a very industrious and creative faculty. And so it's been great to talk with them. I think something else are learning our environmental studies. We just did an external review of that. And they're currently located on a kind of the edge of campus. So thinking about ways to integrate environmental studies. And there's been conversations among geoscience and biology and environmental studies as well about a new environmental science major. So there's a lot of exciting conversations about our curriculum and exciting conversations about starting to move forward on the building, especially with the wonderful gifts that we've received to help move us forward. Great.
So you sort of took part of the next question, but I'll say it anyway, so I think I can add a little bit. And the question is, a special interest in environmental science at the colleges. And I think Sarah hit on that, right? I think a lot of the conversations that started last year amongst the faculty, I think for the first time in my 12 years here, we really started to think holistically across the science division. And, I started to talk to Erin, and Kristen Brubaker in environmental studies, and, folks in math and physics, what do we have in common? What interests do we have? And one thing that came out of that was, we have this amazing environmental studies major. It's the fourth largest major on campus, but it's very interdisciplinary, right? It's humanities, social sciences, and natural sciences, which is terrific. But if you're a prospective student in 10th grade, meeting with your guidance counselor looking for environmental science programs, you currently don't find that in the course catalog, even though we absolutely do it, right? We have geoscience faculty, biology faculty, the Finger Lakes Institute, faculty environmental studies. So we're quite close to, putting that major together and proposing it to our Committee on Academic Affairs. So hopefully sometime in the next academic year.
I did want to say one other thing, Nick, that you made me think of in terms of those conversations. I think one thing that really resonated and I heard loud and clear amongst the faculty was how important the student experience is. So when you ask faculty what they need, they say we need more space for students to engage students and students to engage faculty, that it's those in between classroom conversations that are so critical to development. And so I just will say made me very proud to be a part of an institution that really puts the student first.
Great. Sarah, another one for you. What are the provost challenges today? What's on your plate? What's keeping you up at night?
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenge is in some ways it's how do we articulate to 17 and 18-year-olds what we know to be true, which is that we offer an outstanding educational experience. And what does that look like today? How do we continue to invest in changing while really trying to continue to do what we're doing well? And so I think those are the big conversations we're having. What should a general education curriculum look like? What is going to prepare our students the best for the future? How do we continue to support and sustain an education that we've been offering for 200 years? There's a really long legacy here. So how do we continue to honor all that we've been able to accomplish and yet not rest on that and continue to innovate? Because HWS has been an innovative institution for a long time. And so how do we continue to keep that energy and spirit alive?
For Erin and Patricia, it's clear you've been able to do a lot in spite of some limitations in facilities. What do you imagine you could do with a new science facility? So effectively reimagine your work with a brand new building.
So I think adding I think this ties into the last sort of like one of our big problems, and something you showed at the beginning, which was we're underrepresented in the sciences in terms of percentages of students studying science, even though we have these great opportunities here. Like our classes are small. They're too small. Like the number of students involved could be so much greater if we had more students here. I mean, that's one of our limiting factors. And so I think if we had I imagine if we had a different reimagining of how science was done, we would have a lot more people involved. I mean, we'd probably have more space for them, but we'd also have more students that would be in the pipeline to do it. We'd be able to attract more students. I feel like that's one of our big challenges, attracting students to do science. We attract students, in my mind, a lot of them are pre-med. They come in and it's like, oh, I want to be a doctor. I'm going to go to HWS. And then we siphon those students off into the sciences. But it'd be great if we had a showcase, like so it's so obvious. I think it's really hard for a 17-year-old to penetrate, oh, look at that. They're publishing. That doesn't mean anything. Oh, they're raising money for grants. That doesn't mean anything. Our peers might see it, but a 17-year-old student might not see it. But if we had a building where you could really walk them through it, it's really obvious that it's cutting edge science because it looks like cutting edge science. I think if you walk through our spaces, it doesn't look like it's like a big secret. Like, oh my gosh, they're doing things that are funded by the NSF and the NH. That would be a shock. I think if you walk the NH through there, it'd be like, how are we giving these people money? But, maybe we need to give them millions of dollars to build a building. Well, sorry, I've kind of gone off track, Patricia. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I will just add that a lot of our students might not end up doing independent study or honors or summer research because they have lots of different interests and lots of things they want to be involved in, and for whatever reason. But we really try to give as much as possible a research experience in the classroom, in the lab portion of the class. So for instance, when Erin teaches Orgo 2, they're synthesizing compounds that we will be testing in biological assays. And the students are thrilled to find out, does my thing work? Does it work or not? And so we try to do that. Now, if we have more students here, there's more getting that experience, whether they're going to med school or grad school or whatever they're planning to do. And to get excited and energized by that. So I totally agree with what was Erin saying of just getting them here. But also I would like to say that besides just the building is more fancy equipment to be able to do cooler stuff so that they are prepared to go on and say, I have worked on a flow cytometer type of thing. And so they know how it works. They've done the experiments, and that really helps with whether it's grad school or a job or whatever.
Great. I think we're starting to get toward the end of time. So I think I have one more question that I think maybe can be addressed by all of us here. And maybe I'll start, with Sarah. Different ways. What are different ways our alums can help support the sciences at HWS? And then I'll go from Sarah down to the faculty, and then I'll ask you, see if any of our former students have any thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think two things. One, I think our alums can talk about their great experience at HWS and help bring students forward. But I also would say, I think that our alums have that experience that our students need to see. They have wisdom, they've lived their lives. And so I think opportunities to come back to campus. We love to have alums come back and give talks and meet with students and show what an HWS education is and the power of a liberally educated individual. So those would be the two places I would love to see support.
Erin and or Patricia. Oh, sorry, Sarah, you gonna say something?
Oh, and of course, we would love any financial support anyone wants to provide. we will use your money well, but
I in terms of like the financial support, little bits really help. I mean, so I've been here like 22 years. I don't know if there's been a year where I have not benefited from HWS alum donation, like every year. I mean, I've had maybe 75 summer research students in 22 years, and like over half of them were funded by alum donations. So I think it all adds up, and it's really impacted us to have this program that is so active.
Yeah, and let's add on to that. There's been wonderful donations that have helped with us getting supply money for doing the research. And there's also been faculty or alums who've given money in order to be able to place students doing research in the summer for housing and for their stipend. I am also the liaison to the Cornell Agricultural station, and so I also been able to place students over there. So there's a nice collaboration where they get to interact, not just here, but with something close by where there's PhDs working on other topics of interest. So yeah.
And I'll just add before turning it over to the students that, when I talked to my colleagues, the other institutions, and I was having a Zoom call with one of them earlier today, our summer research program, they're jealous of what we have going on here. And I have to, pinch myself every day that we're going to have, nearly 100 students working here on campus. It's vibrant. Every Friday, we all get together and have donuts and share research. And, Erin and Patricia's group talk to my group and the Finger Lakes Institute. And, as Sarah mentioned, right, we now have folks in the social sciences and humanities doing summer research. And it's really a vibrant, amazing place in the summer. I think almost unrivaled amongst our peers. Jeremiah, Gabby, Bree, now that you're a couple of years removed, any thought in terms of how alums might be able to support the sciences, or anything that you would like to do to support the sciences?
Yeah, I'll just add on to what Nick, you were saying about summer research. I was lucky enough through our first COVID summer to be funded by an alum to start my honors research early. And that initial period in the summer is what allowed me the time to begin to develop my own research question, which is now turned into my PhD project. And so that short bit of experience and arguably a smaller amount of money has been so fundamental to my experience and my career trajectory. So I just cannot downplay how impactful that has been in my own life. And also through my experience working in the Career Center when I was a student at HWS and running my club, I'd say the willingness of alums to come back and talk to current students about their experiences and give them that guidance. And no matter what stage of their career or life they're at, the wisdom that's shared through the alumni network is really priceless and so valuable to students.
And if I could just add just a small bit to what Gabby so eloquently said, it's my perspective in the last 12 years that science grads don't come back quite as often to talk as some of our other grads. So if we can have more science alums come back to talk to our students, I think that'll be a really great thing. Jeremiah, Bree, Taylor, any last words along those lines?
Yeah, that was going to be my point, encouraging past students to come talk with current students. You know, it would have been really helpful to have heard about what kind of pathways there could be into the workforce. And I'm still trying to figure that out now. So I'm still asking like alumni from HWS, alumni from Albany. So any little bit helps.
I would reiterate everything that everyone else has said. The other thing that I would maybe add is, you know, if you do work for a science company or anything and you could offer like an internship or something like that, and, you know, kind of instead of financially contributing, or maybe in addition to financially contributing, if you could actually like contribute with an experience for students, I feel like that would have been really valuable, or would be really valuable.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to get lunch with a lot of alums in my years here, and honestly, I love it. Like, come back. I love hearing your stories, and I think it's just a good opportunity for students.
And I think that's a really great place to leave the question and answer session. So before I turn it back over to, I think, Kelly Young to sort of close us out, I just want to thank you all for being here on a Thursday night. I'm sure you have lots of things to do. But I know I was really excited to, you know, listen to our faculty colleagues, and also these amazing students who are a great representation of, you know, everything that's great about HWS. So Kelly.
Hi, so I get the pleasure of wrapping everything up. I just want to thank everyone for attending our webinar tonight. I thought everyone did a great job. Thanks so much to our panelists, Sarah, and the faculty and students and recent graduates. I hope everybody found something of interest or helpful. So the other thing I just wanted to let you know is that Teresa, she said in the opening that she's going to send around an email. She's going to put faculty's email addresses in it. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to them directly. I know folks they're really happy to help and answer any questions that you might have. The other thing is, if you are interested in supporting the sciences in any way, shape, or form, we're in the office. I'm in the Office of Advancement along with my colleagues, and we're happy to sit down with you and match, you know, sort of what your potential interests might be with the needs that we have in the sciences. You know, as you can see from talking with all of these people and listening to them, it is just a vibrant community, and the things that our faculty and our students are doing are truly amazing. When I sit and I see it, and I see, you know, cancer research is happening in Geneva, New York, on our campus with our students and our faculty. I mean, it's just such an exciting time to be here. So I just want to thank you all for attending. Thank you for being with us. Watch for other opportunities to join our great faculty and staff and students in these types of settings. It's easy to bring you all together for that. So thank you so much. Chevy just sent me a message and said that she's going to unpin everyone. And if folks want to stay on for a minute and just talk, you know, we're happy to have you do that. And Chevy's going to stay on with everybody too. So thank you so much and enjoy your night. Thank you.
Just in case you all wanted to see each other and give everybody a resounding hi, Arnie. I see so many wonderful faces on here. Hi, Ed. But this is usually the fun part of the night when folks greet each other, because it's like a reunion. So I thought I'd leave a couple minutes for you all to say hello and chat with the faculty and each other. So
I thought it was hilarious hearing about using the term elegant grit for the labs, because in 1967, when the new president came in, he described the entire campus as genteel shabbiness.
So it fits.
And
I love it.
the other thing about all the grant writing, I don't know, there was a professor of chemistry, Tom Blackburn, who was a chemistry professor, my freshman chemistry professor. And that's pretty much one of his names he made for himself, was writing a book and giving classes on writing scientific grants, which I thought was interesting. One other thing is for the students with the PhDs and talking about biomedical research, remember an MD is a plenipotentiary degree. You can do all the research you want with an MD degree. That's not necessarily true in terms of biological research without an MD degree. The one last thing I wanted to say is teaching medical students over the years and more intensely lately, I'm become absolutely convinced that a liberal art preparation is the best way to prepare someone for going to medical school or dental school or veterinary school. And out west here, where there's a relative paucity of liberal arts institutions, many of our students had gone to perfectly good grade A research institutions. But honestly, it is it's dramatic how little they know about the world. I just realized that is not an adequate preparation, and what you get at Hobart and William Smith is far superior.
Yeah, I had a great experience at Hobart, and taking part in this webinar or just watching it, it was very impressive to see the energy, the dedication. Maybe it's a lot of science students are more focused on what they're doing, but the combination of enjoying what they were doing here and propelling them to a bright future was really great, especially when we're so distracted, whether it's social media, politics, kind of forces that reduce what you can accomplish. But here at Hobart, I think the future looks great.
And I will say, while these are amazing students, we have many amazing students, both in and out of the sciences. This really, we gave you a sampling of what it's like to be on this campus with students today.
Well, it gives you a formative advantage in life after you leave Hobart.
One thing I would say, the question was raised, why don't you have a higher percentage of students in the sciences? And the one thing that struck me, it used to be said that you had 5 minutes or 6 minutes to grab a student when they got on campus to make them interested in your school. Well, I'm sure that's now 2 or 3 minutes online looking at a catalog. And if you compare the Hobart William Smith catalog to your peer institutions, and I did this one afternoon, I think you come away with the fact that the sciences are perhaps not as heavily featured, or featured in a way which may seem with less gravitas than at some other institutions. And I wonder if students just start a scan and giving it the 2 minutes online or 5 minutes online they might give, that hook is not set because they just dismiss it as a much more pure liberal arts institution. I don't know if that's true, but it just was my impression looking at some of your peer colleges.
We can certainly look into that, Arnie. Yeah.
I know somebody else want to say something. And I mean, I'm looking at Ed and Rick, and actually there are two Eds. You're sitting right next to each other, Ed Tapper and Cooper.
Thanks, Debbie.
I'm like a teacher, I'm going to call on you if you're.
Appreciate it. Both my wife and I, both of us are alums, try to be active and involved with alums, keep abreast of those type of things that are going on campus. I got to tell you, I was blown away by the presentations from our faculty and from our students. Sarah is nodding her head because at one point I sent her a text and said, "This is so cool," and it truly is. I think one of the wonderful things about Hobart and William Smith is the interaction between faculty and students. We're blessed with a fantastic faculty that first and foremost wants to be able to help make a difference in a student's experience and also in a career. And I think I see a couple of heads nodding of not just alums, but more recent alums as well. So that's a spectacular thing. I think the other thing that was mentioned before, which I think a number of us will take to heart and perhaps see what we might be able to do about is how to be able to publicize better. I think every major, I think every program, would love to be on the front of the website or in the Pulteney Street Survey all the time. But as speaking as a history major who took one science class as an undergrad at Hobart William Smith, I'm really amazed and very proud of what I heard this evening. And, I think that we ought to be able to publicize that as best as we can and push that as best we can so that we've got the students that follow in the footsteps of the students that we heard this evening. Thank you all. It was enlightening.
So what science course did you take?
Some of us will I took a I took something from Dr. Carl, a class from Dr. Carl. Fantastic and spectacular. I will tell you that at one point I thought about, my father was a veterinarian, all my family was veterinarians. I thought about going into veterinary medicine as well. But this was back in the days of the slash. And I'm somewhat embarrassed to tell you that I slashed Professor Carl's class. My parents were not particularly happy about that. But that's what it was. The good news is that I found a whole bunch of other fantastic courses to be able to immerse myself in, but never lost interest in the sciences, although it's not for me. My wife and I and our family try to be as supportive as we can for environmental studies and other things like that at the colleges.
And before you move on, because I'm sure Taylor and Bree is like, what's the slash? I think it was Arnie who told me about this. You've got to tell folks.
Oh man, I'm embarrassed to even.
Reacting.
Yeah, this was again. Some folks on this call may remember this, but you instead of failing a class, you had an opportunity to be able to remove yourself from it. It was only one opportunity. And you could declare that you went to Connie Brewer, who was the registrar at the time, and you said, Rick's nodding his head in agreement, and you would say, it's as if you didn't even take the class. It would show up on your transcript, but you would not have a grade.
Perhaps beyond this discussion would be a focus on some of the biological reasons why Ed had to take that slash.
That would take a long time to go through and try and like that.
I'd have to agree with Arnie with regards to the value of liberal arts education and the sciences, in which we have terrific departments at Hobart and William Smith. I started doing science when I was 17 years old. Didn't do any science when I was at Hobart. It wasn't available. But now, if you look at the curriculum, if you look at the people these students get to interact with, it's extraordinary. I mean, to think of the fact that we have students who could now go to the NIH for the 2-year program, that's extraordinary. I think that what the colleges does give the students a deep appreciation and a curiosity for science. And once you start with that, you can go anywhere. I'm really very excited about working with colleges in this area.
That's
One
great.
thing,
You go.
one thing I would add is I think the college has to get a lot of praise for having stayed open during the plague, because many institutions seized on that as an opportunity to go electronic, go distant, and they did that at the medical school where I'm teaching right now. And it was basically a lost year for those students because real education is by conversation. It's not done over a wire. And I think those years, I think the school deserves a lot of kudos for having hung in there and made that extraordinary effort and didn't break that chain of interaction, personal interaction on campus. You know, I think that was a really key thing that they did.
I'll come in just to reiterate the incredible presentation tonight. Thank you. Just spectacular. And congratulations to faculty and students on the screen and such achievement. Part of perhaps why we are not enrolling as many in the sciences is the optics that they experience when they arrive on campus. We so need to improve our science facilities, support our faculty with more advanced and expanded research opportunities and classroom teaching locales. Our students come in, and while our experiences that we're giving them are superb, the optics of what they see are far below our peer schools. And I'm so excited to hear we're really moving on our new science center and integrated science center. I'm, as Sarah knows, hoping that neuropsychology kind of finds its way into that integration, which is my field. And would be and I'm so excited to hear that energy. But I so admire faculty and students because you're doing so much within facilities that are not to the level of what you're doing. You are achieving in remarkable ways and embracing students and bringing them to experiences that are just spectacular. We're so appreciative. Thank you.
Well, I can stay as long as you want. I'm just down the street and I've already had dinner, so I don't have to go home and cook for anybody. And I have a bottle of wine in the refrigerator. But I just want to thank you all again, for sticking around and just becoming familiar with. And hopefully the next time we all see each other in person, those of us who are strangers or met on Zoom will be much more intimate and intertwined. But I just love this group. This is the best alumni group ever. I don't care what your grad schools or PhD schools are. This is going to be it for you, right? 4 years for life. So thank you all so much for doing this with us tonight and joining us. So
yes, thank you all.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Have a good night.